And the Oscar goes to...
I was excited about today's film. Why, you may ask? Two reasons. Not since The Great Ziegfeld, which I reviewed way back in 2013, have we had a musical, and it's the first movie since The Broadway Melody, keep in mind that was 14 movies ago, that has a truly original screenplay. What do I mean by truly original? Well, every film between The Broadway Melody and Going My Way was either based off a book, whether fiction or nonfiction, a short story, a play, true life events, or a combination of any of those. Here we finally have a film not based on anything else. Sort of. Director and producer Leo McCarey came up with the story, and screenwriters Frank Butler and Frank Cavott wrote the screenplay. The odd thing is that this film had a sequel. Well, no, it wasn't odd that it had a sequel, but that the sequel was written before this movie even went into development. The reason this film was made and premiered first was because Paramount would only lend lead actor Bing Crosby to RKO, who made the sequel, if it, Paramount, got McCarey to write and direct a movie starring the same character. Going My Way being written second may mean it doesn't constitute a truly original screenplay. But I think it's close enough for me to count it. That sequel, by the way, was the Christmas classic The Bells of St. Mary's, which featured Crosby reprising his role from Going My Way while starring alongside another actor who's graced this series, Ingrid Bergman. Going My Way was the highest grossing film of 1944 and got nominated for 11 Oscars. The biggest being Best Director for Leo McCarey, Best Actor for Bing Crosby, Best Actor for his co-star Barry Fitzgerald, Best Screenplay, Best Original Motion Picture Story, and Best Song for the tune Swinging on a Star. Out of the 6 awards I listed, only Fitzgerald lost out. Thankfully, that same year he was nominated for and won Best Supporting Actor for Going My Way, the first and only time an actor got nominated twice for the same part in the same movie. The Academy would impose rules starting the next year that would make this impossible to repeat. Going My Way follows Father Charles Chuck O'Malley, played by Bing Crosby, as he's assigned to St. Dominic's Church, a struggling parish in New York City. He's been put in charge of the church in place of the elderly Father Fitzgibbons, played by Barry Fitzgerald.
No, it's not possible. The bishop may have a grudge against me. He may think I've a mouthful of clover and can't preach. But even the bishop wouldn't do a thing like this to me.
I see what you mean.
Young man, may I ask, is that the official garb of the priest in St. Louis?
No, something happened to me on the way over. I guess this just isn't my day, Father. Do you mind if I...
Young man, as a matter of curiosity, what made you become a priest?
The Irish-born Fitzgibbons built the church and has made it his life for decades. Lately, though, his method of running things hasn't been working out, and the church is in need of a great deal of money to pay its mortgage holder, Ted Haynes Sr., played by Gene Lockhart. Haynes is hoping Fitzgibbons won't be able to raise the money in time. He wants the property and would love to tear down the church and put up a parking lot. Chuck is kind, generous, easygoing, and connects with the community in ways Fitzgibbons hasn't for years. Although O'Malley's methods are met with success, Fitzgibbons is often stubborn about the changes and doesn't always get along with the newcomer. With help of an old friend and fellow priest, Father Timothy O'Dowd, played by Frank McHugh, an old girlfriend and now Metropolitan Opera singer, played by Reese Stevens, and a group of troubled youths turned church choir members, Father O'Malley hopes to get the money to save the church the only way he knows how. Through music. Or, to be more specific, by selling the rights to a song he has written, Going My Way, to a local music company. If asked to describe the experience of watching Going My Way, I would say it's like a cross between Frank Capra and the Marx Brothers, which is funny since Leo McCarey actually directed one of their films. Why, Tim, you may say? I've seen this movie and that combination makes no sense. Hear me out. It's Marx Brothers in the sense that the story isn't all that important. Constantly, we're moving away from the storyline of saving the church. We're always brought back to it again with plot points, such as forming the boys' choir or the song Chuck has written, but we spend shockingly little time on them. It takes nearly 40 minutes for the choir idea to even be introduced. When it does, I thought we'd spend the rest of the film following the rise of the choir, climaxing on a big concert where the needed money would be raised. But we spend just about 11 minutes watching them practice, and then the movie quickly moves on to other matters, like O'Malley running into his former girlfriend played by Stevens. This is where Capra comes in. In a Marx Brothers film, the story is only an excuse for the wild comedy antics of Groucho, Chico, Harpo, and sometimes Zeppo. In Going My Way, the story is just there so McCary can highlight acts of goodwill and sentimentality from Father Chuck and others.
Carol, I didn't like the way you said that. I'll get by. Here's a little something to tide you over.
Oh, but
It's
Father...
all right. It's not charity. It's a loan.
Thanks. I can use it. I appreciate it.
Carol, I guess there's a lot of things I should have said to you, you know, advice and one thing and another, but you wouldn't have paid any attention. After all, you are 18, aren't you?
Don't worry. I'll be all right.
Of course you will, Carol.
It's not a bad way of telling a story, and I'm sure the war-weary Americans who came in to see it appreciated levity from the dark outside world. Truthfully, I love seeing that in a movie too. My favorite Best Picture winner is a Capra film after all. Unfortunately, I don't think McCary, whose stock in trade was this sort of thing, pulls it off. The story came off as unfocused, or like it didn't have much material and was adding things to fill the runtime. I would have loved a more concentrated screenplay, maybe one that followed Chuck and the choir closely. The way the movie is now, there is no sense of narrative urgency, you're never worrying about what's going to happen to the church or to the characters, and it moves along leisurely, not paying attention to the fact that it's gone off topic 90 times. It's like listening to a speech and realizing that 3/4 of it was off-topic tangents. Some might argue that the real story is the evolving relationship between O'Malley and Fitzgibbons. There's some truth in that. A lot of time is spent on them and their budding friendship, and maybe that's what McCary actually cared about. Looking at the movie from that angle, I still wouldn't be satisfied. Even with all its screen time, that story doesn't have the proper focus to make it satisfying. McCary too often cuts away to other scenes of comedy and schmaltz. I think the problem is that McCary had all these aspects of the storyline that he wanted to slowly introduce and then come together at the film's climax, which is so lacking in dramatic tension that it didn't feel like a climax at all. If true, he wasn't capable of juggling all these characters and plot points, and the important elements got lost or diminished in the process. I also hesitate to even call the movie a musical. My wife hit on its true identity. Not a musical, but a film that has some music in it. All the music comes from the story, and that there is an excuse for the characters to start singing in a realistic situation. This is in line with the other two musicals we've had in this series, The Broadway Melody and The Great Ziegfeld, which both had numbers built into real-life situations. Going My Way isn't as grand as those two films. Its numbers are small, almost all centering around Crosby singing at a piano. There aren't any big set pieces or huge dance numbers. Actually, there is no dancing whatsoever. Some variety is thrown in, with beautifully sung religious songs like Ave Maria and Silent Night, as performed by the boys' choir, and a nice rendition of Habanera from Carmen, as sung by Rice Stevens. Sadly, the songs often lack the appropriate energy to keep me entertained. The title song fares the worst. Even after listening to it multiple times for this review, its tune and lyrics continue to escape with few remnants remaining.
This road leads to Rainbowville, going my way. Up ahead is Bluebird Hill, going my way. Just pack a basket full of wishes, and off you start with Sunday morning in your heart.
I hardly remember any of the songs. I would be lying though if I said Swinging Star isn't catchy while you're listening to it, even if you do easily forget it afterwards.
How would you like to swing on a star, carry moonbeams home in a jar, and be better off than you are? Or would you rather be a mule? A mule is an animal with long funny ears, kicks up at anything he hears.
His back is brawny and his brain is weak. He's just plain stupid with a stubborn streak.
And by the way, if you hate to go to school, you may grow up to be a mule.
Or would you like to swing on a star, carry moonbeams home in a jar, and be better off than you are?
Or would you rather be a pig?
Bing Crosby's soothing musical voice is also always a pleasure to listen to, even when the songs are lacking. All that negative hoopla being said, it's impossible to hate this movie. Crosby is way too lovable in his role, and the film's intentions are too caring and optimistic for you to get mad at the story and music for their flaws. Crosby exhibits an aura of kindness and genuine love for humanity that's infectious. I immediately wanted to go out and do something nice for someone, whether it be someone I knew or a total stranger. Fitzgibbons, as cranky as he can be, is also impossible not to care for or sympathize with. The rest of the characters, Father O'Dowd, the opera singer, Haynes Sr., and his son Ted Haynes Jr., played by James Brown, are generic in stock, but harmless. The only character I actively disliked was an 18-year-old runaway played by Jean Heather, whose voice, laugh, and overall attitude annoyed the crap out of me. The relationship between the two priests, though, is touching and comes to a head in the film's final moments, where I literally teared up. So when the credits roll, you may not feel all that satisfied with what you just watched, but you'll certainly feel good about yourself, people, and the world in general. I would say check it out, if only to cheer yourself up after a bad day. By the way, every time I hear the name of this movie, I always think of this scene from The Twilight Zone.
I believe you're going my way.